I'm Mike Bosko with Mid-Columbia Fisheries Enhancement Group. I am not a presenter. I'm the guy that's usually in the dark room doing the GIS stuff, so I'll do my best for you. So this is the project that was brought to our attention by Ron and Tammy Johnson. They're landowners of this site. They came out to one of our site events when we were showcasing some landowner projects that we did. And they approached us and said, hey, we want to do something like this on our property. And it just turns out to be, this is a property that's also on the, our Cottonwood assessment, which was funded through the SRF board. And so it's kind of exciting. We're taking that project and actually, or that product and using it to develop a site. So. Oh, shoot. See, works. Did I do that or did you do that?
I did that. Try doing it now.
Okay. Okay, so the project location where we are, we're in Kittitas County. This is we're at 39 Upper Yakima Basin. Oh shoot. Sorry, this is the site of the electric light and power plant in Ellensburg. It used to develop power or produce power for Ellensburg. It was in operation during the 1900s. It's also the end point of the Ellensburg Power Canal, or formerly Ellensburg Power Canal, which is now called the Packwood Ditch. There we go. So for those of you not familiar with Ellensburg, is there a pointer on this? We're near the Ellensburg I-90 West interchange, which is exit 106. It's the second exit as you're heading towards Seattle, driving through Ellensburg on I-90. It's the last Ellensburg exit. You get off the exit, go over the river, and then head north on the Thorpe Highway about a mile. And so this is a preliminary design request. And it's for engineering on 11 acres of property that's privately owned, as I mentioned, by the Johnsons. The photo here, it's taken from the north edge of the project area. We're facing southeast here. You can see the power plant in the far distance. And then the riparian area, I'm sorry, the floodplain area in the middle there, which is lined on the left by the Yakima River. And it's a very thin riparian along there. And there's a reason for that, I'll explain. And then on the right side is a relic side channel. You can see the riparian there. The riparian's fed by groundwater flows right now. It's completely cut off at the northern end. So we're hoping to reconnect that. Cattle also graze this area. The landowners have assured us that as soon as implementation starts and from that point forward, the cattle will be off the property. And then for river, this is a well-known reach of the Yakima River. It's host to steelhead and rainbow, Chinook, coho, cutthroat, and then out migrating sockeye, bull trout, and lamprey, and then minnows, suckers, and sculpins because they're fish too. So why this project? So the riparian itself is degraded. We're looking at a impaired riparian and then also impaired floodplain function. Along this edge here, there's about a 5-foot elevation difference between the top of the floodplain and the Yakima River itself. And the reason I assume for that is because on the other side of the river, we have I-90, which is holding the river from moving. And on this side, we have farmland, which is, there's a lot of pressure on it there. Back here, we have cars lining the bank. There's a lot of control of the river, keeping it in its channel. So it's not only moving downstream, it's also moving down. So we have a 5-foot elevation difference there. So our project is proposing to reduce the floodplain elevation to allow connectivity and accommodate the flood flows. We want to reconnect 2,000 feet of this existing side channel, and then also establish a riparian forest. So the challenge here is that 5-foot elevation difference. We're gonna have to balance the earthwork that's gonna be needed with the ecological benefit. That's something we're gonna draw up the designers, including, you know, our input and hopefully a tag, technical advisory group, to come up with a solution that we can make this work. So our project goals, we want to improve floodplain side channel riparian habitat. And then in turn, that should help us support 11 acres of riparian forest, provide river shade during the summer, and then improve the food web through nutrient inputs, and then reducing and accommodating high velocity flows. And then also that reconnecting that side channel habitat is another goal of this project. And then also we want to move this property into conservation status. The landowners want to move this into conservation status in perpetuity, long-term protection. And then kind of focusing on the site here, I put 2 images up here. I got an aerial on the left, a relative elevation model, which I'll say REM from now on, because I can't say those 3 words very well, on the right. And so I want to just kind of talk about the aerial on the left is for reference. I'm going to be talking about this relative elevation model a little bit. We have the brown in the bottom left corner, we have brown, reds, and yellows, and those are high elevation. So that's a high terrace, not part of the project area, but it's in the landowner's property. Then we have a low terrace in the darker green area. And then we have a floodplain bench down there. It's the moon-shaped section in light green. And that's the area that's 5 feet perched above the Yakima River. And then we have a relic side channel, which I put as a dotted line where it's sitting right now. It's its configuration, because you can't really see it from the maps. You can see the riparian on the aerial. But this is where it exists now, and the northern portion of that, up in that area there it's all filled in. So there's no connection to the river at all up there. And that's the piece we'd like to start getting, or open that up to get that connection through. And get water down through there. I also outlined the project area is in red, the red polygon. So I have this crescent shaped project area on the right. That's the floodplain. That's where we're going to be looking at reconnection and riparian planting. And then the quadrilateral shape up there, that's a low terrace, which we'll be looking at for riparian planting. It's perched high. It helps us to get some shade onto that river. That's another benefit that I might have missed, was that this is on a southwest side of the river. So it's a really strong benefit for shading of the river itself. So I threw in the flood zone map here. We have yellow is the 500 year, which is underneath the purple, which is the 100 year. I have no idea why that hot dog shaped yellow is there, because that area is completely flat. So I think that might be an anomaly of the map. But the reason I put this map here is that we may require FEMA map revision. So we included that into the budget of the grant. So because this is all in that 100-year flood zone. Yeah. Okay, so our project objectives, we're looking to document the wetlands and culturals. And then up to preliminary designs, and then a riparian planting plan. We're gonna apply for construction permits. And then also we want to assist the landowner. They've asked for our help with developing a long-term conservation plan on the property. So recovery plans. Our project aims to address the limiting factors, which are degraded riparian, impaired floodplain function. And then, and which the floodplain function is why we have a design request for this rather than riparian. And then the stillhood recovery plan, we have limiting factor 3, which is degraded riparian areas and large wood recruitment. So we'll be taking care of this through riparian planting, basin-wide action 12, improved recruitment of cottonwoods. We have to get that floodplain lowered, so we can get some, inundation from the river during high flows. So that's that piece. And then we have upper action, Yakima action 13, protect and restore, the floodplain and riparian, part of our project. In-channel habitat, probably not, other than within that side channel that we have. That we hope to, reconnect. And then I definitely want to make sure I show that, this is a part of the SRF board funded, cottonwood assessment. Our site is located where the yellow arrow is, site 10. Site 10 is assessed as a moderate high restoration value, moderate restoration feasibility, and a priority 2 restoration opportunity in the assessment. I've read through the assessment. I've been trying to figure out why site 8 is a top priority when this one's a second priority. I haven't really quite figured that out. Looking at the rim, which we're showing here, you know, everything looks pretty much the same, but we are a priority 2 area. But we're tackling it nonetheless. So we have really interested landowners that want us to come in there and do whatever work is necessary to improve wildlife and fish habitat. Let's see, another benefit here is that it gives us an example site to encourage other landowners to allow us to address the other sites. I'm thinking site 8 moving upstream. So once we get this done, we can show other landowners what we're doing in that area and help us to address these other sites. This work is also going to address pressure on I-90, which is the yellow lines up there. So it'll be supported by DOT and Kittitas County Flood Zone District. Yeah. And then also the other benefits, we have landowner long-term interests. They're definitely interested in doing this. Quickly, just some pictures. There's 2 irrigation flow returns in the upper portion of the property. This goes through the project area, devoid of riparian. And the one up further runs through right here when we have, there's crack willow for those online. It's in the background of the bottom right picture. The distance there, those are crack willow that the other irrigation flow returns going through. And then on the right picture is, this is the Yakima River. It's now we're facing north. And so the Yakima River is on our right. And it's very thin in riparian there. Those trees are hanging on to the only place they can access the water. So, it's definitely in need of some riparian in this area. Also, this is the last picture. There's a lot of garbage. The Packwood Canal has tires in the channel, outside of the channel, all of the kinds of garbage. I put 7, I think I counted maybe more automobiles that are lining on the southern edge of near the power plant. I'm assuming these might have been placed there to armor the banks. I've seen that in other locations. Either way, we'd like to get these out of here. We would probably incorporate that into the implementation phase, not this design phase, but we'd want to clean this up as part of the final project. Here, this is the last slide. I put budget and timeline in here, just in case we want to refer to it and come back to it. Mainly, I want to talk about the FEMA map revisions that we may have to do. These will be submitted during the grant timeline, if they need to be, but the conditional letter probably won't come back to us until after the grant timeline is complete. So with that, I just kind of put all these pictures together and it's open for discussion, questions. Hope that wasn't too fast. Good.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is the powerhouse still standing?
It is, and it's a really cool building.
Oh.
It's been completely gutted. The water still comes through not the ceiling, just below the ceiling, drops to the floor.
That big round.
Yeah,
So
believe
that,
it or not, yeah.
so the other thing about the cars, there was shop space at one time, people used it for automotive repair.
Okay,
It's been some years since I've
Okay.
been at that site.
all
And
right,
I didn't know if that was still saying, it is, the moss that's growing and the inside of that powerhouse, where the water comes through that hole is unreal.
yeah, it is, it's amazing.
It's really unreal. that
Yeah,
building.
there's holes in the floor that you don't wanna step in.
No, right, no, that's a good fishing hole too, though.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, a weird story too, is that when I walked out there with the landowners, we walked out into the building, out the building. And they just told me a story about this. They were there last time, they went outside the building, nothing there, they walked around the property and there's a dead deer on the way back. We went out there, they told me that story, we walked around the property and it was a dead deer when we got back. And I'm assuming it gets on top of the building and then they can't find a way out because it's a jump down onto it and there's trees coming out to the ceiling and that's the only way out, I'm guessing. So we had to haul that away. Anyway, that's not related to fishing anyway. Any other questions or?
How would you lower the elevation of that field to the river? I mean, you just have to like dig the dirt away and let it
Yeah,
make the
so
bank.
that's been on my mind a lot. I've been trying to think of that because it's a lot. I mean, I calculated the cubic yardage that I assumed if we were to just kind of gradually put it up and it was crazy. I can't remember what the number is right now.
Yeah,
You guys make me nervous, but it's a lot of material. So it would either, the landowner said, well, you can build us a terrace, so we could just keep it on site, put it there.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of material. If we did have to truck it off, it was like a lot of dump truck loads that I calculated also. So, I mean, it could either be a full scale removal, but I've been thinking, even like floodplain swales, just kind of putting in some swales that are kind of facing downstream, because we still want to protect this property for the landowner. They like it, they go down there, they spend time down there, and I think we need to respect that. But if we can put swales in there that gets that elevation lower, it's less material that has to be moved. We can plant into those swales, the water would come into there, it would inundate the floodplain still. This is just a crazy Mike Bosko idea. I'm not, the designer, but.
a D9 would solve all your problems.
A what?
A D9.
A D9,
would
sure,
solve all
right,
your
of
problems.
course, yeah. Yeah, that's some ideas I had. We'll leave it to the designers, but.
If you can stockpile on site and use scrapers or a D9, it's just orders of magnitude cheaper than any time you've got to put it in a bucket and load it. in
Oh,
something.
definitely, right.
Sean, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand, Mike, what you're thinking here. So you're talking about lowering the floodplain. Are you talking about digging an inlet to this this old swale or this filled in channel as well and like excavating that channel out?
Yeah, again, leaving it to the designers, but my thought, it seems like that whole northern end where that the dotted blue line ends heading north. I believe that, it appears to me when I'm out there that it's been filled in. So if we can just open that up, allow an inlet, to allow water through. That's one of my goals. I do think we'd have to put some kind of wood component at the head of that, because again, I want to protect this property for the landowners. As much as I don't want to, I do want to. So I would think some kind of wood component at the head up there to not allow the whole river to come down into the property. And then, yeah, on the floodplain, it's got to, it's 5 feet to the river. Something has to be done there. But again, I'd rather leave that to designers.
And then you want to replace did you mention cars? You want to, wasn't there something about like erosion protection or something along the, what was that?
If I'm understanding right, I might have been talking about the cars lining the bank. but we want to remove those cars. I mean, I should say too, you know, I said it's devoid of, riparian. Where those cars are, there's a very small cottonwood gallery of some very large old trees. So, you know, and it sounds like I'm probably wrong on whether they were lining the bank as
Junkyard.
protection. But they are there and we do want to remove those. And those trees there are very solid and in place. So I think they are gonna protect the banks. I don't know if I answered that question right, though. I don't know if I,
You're not intending to install additional bank protection in terms of wood in the Yakima River, other than the head of the channel? Is that fair?
that has not been my intent, you know, designers may have a better idea. You know, I definitely want to protect the landowner's property in some way. Whether it's roughness with wood, I don't know what that would be.
I think this is a project where it'll be really important to set some clear objectives and have some frank discussions with the designers, landowners and others. Just because I think you have some tremendous potential here and some really good potential designs. You could also get caught in the situation where you end up with high plantings that need irrigation for the long haul and you don't get much gain in river function. I'd really caution, yes, you don't wanna expose the landowner to a liability they're not ready for. But I wouldn't assume that means a no erosion policy, or, I mean, this place, I think this bank's moving really slowly, if at all. It'd be a great thing to look at in the design process.
Yeah,
But I do think it'll be really important to, you know, look the trade-offs in the eye and to be clear about objectives, because if you try and do everything without doing that.
yeah, and I don't think we want to approach it without like an advisory group. I mean, I don't think we just give it to the designers and say go. Yes,
So I may have missed that, I'm sorry if I did. What is your timeline for starting to decide? So maybe you can start to really hone in on what those objectives are for this proposal
yeah, oh. I would assume when we get funding.
funding. Okay, I wasn't sure if they were still like kind of giving you like any kind of preliminary, like, hey, this is what we could do, or they're just like solidly waiting until an
Yeah,
agreement's in
yeah,
place.
yeah,
Okay,
unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking about it, but
right.
yeah, no, for
Okay.
designing. Thank you.
Right, your elevations tell you that the river used to live on this bench?
No, not that I've seen. I mean, I did some, in fact, I put some supplementary things in here, those aren't easy to see, so I'll go here. So I created some, transects. And so I'm not, so basically, we'll just go through, I mean, T1 is pointing to where T1 is up there, and that's the elevation. Coming down, you know, we have, that's running through that, return. And then we're here, you can see where the side channel, the side channel is.
Yeah.
It's sloping downward. You know, this has also been farmed, so it's really kind of hard to tell a lot, you know, from the LiDAR. It had been farmed, so it may have been graded and a lot of those scars may be missing. Moving to transect 5, you can see what the side channel is, again, it's sloping down. But I have seen no evidence to myself that, yes, the river's been out there. Just, if you can look back at the LiDAR and have, you know, see more of the channel. I mean, the river comes down and it just looks like that's where it wanted to turn. But that's just me.
I mean, if you look at recent geologic history, the river has been to the edge of that terrace. And the question is that 5,000 or,
That was put in right here.
and you've got so much going on in this, which would be really interesting if you could look at the GLO maps and maybe look at as-built on some of the bridges just downstream.
I did geo-reference the glow map. I probably should have put it in here, but it only showed the river. For those online, I mean, it only showed the river coming in a little ways on that. So how accurate those are though, I don't know. But I did geo-reference the glow maps as well. I mean, it looks like the river's wide, definitely wider. There's more islands in there. According to the survey that was done. So it could have been over there. So that's the only evidence that I probably have on that. I did try to find that out though.
Elizabeth wanted to ask, can we get the tires out this phase?
For the design,
Believe so.
I don't know if that's, it's not in our,
She also wrote, we could add a small scope to get those out, given the Jan McIntyre work that highlighted the issues with tires and sand.
we would love to get the tires out of there. If we had funding to do that, we'd dive in there, yeah. So is that something, I'm really new to this grant process, so is that something we just add to the grant?
I mean, it's if you wanna do it, and it means if you're ready to mobilize for construction twice. Since you won't have your design,
Well, how many tires though? Like,
Yeah,
could it
is it
be
equipment?
incorporated, like whoever's doing the assessment out there, they bring extra armies or like WCC crew and they remove tires same time?
Yeah, when I was there, the water levels were up, so I wasn't able to climb down inside there. I didn't take that picture, but I know there's several, I hear, I only saw the one.
I mean, if it's several tires and you can take them out by hand, you don't
Yeah,
have funding.
good.
Right.
If it's 1,000 tires
Yeah.
That's
and they are
different.
buried in there, doing it construction in between.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. We'd have the machinery down there to pull the stuff out easier. Cause typically they've been down there so long, it's probably buried in mud. And I don't know that though. But it's definitely worth a look. And I would definitely love to do
It's a
that.
junkyard.
There's probably hundreds.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mike, this is Sean Gross again. And had you considered just making this a riparian project? It's, I mean, trying to create floodplain by scraping down might be a challenge. I mean, and then trying to create a channel. This is going to turn into a really big project and, fairly expensive. You're messing with a pretty big river. You're going to get into a bunch of modeling. You're going to get into developing in-stream flow deflector type thing. I'm just wondering, kind of bang for the buck wise, if it makes more sense to have it as a riparian and garbage cleanup project, and actually maybe even put, there might be more benefit to working at the outlet of these canals or irrigation returns where you have some water to work with and kind of working on the, more of a local confluence project. I just wonder if you thought about it, considered those kind of approaches here.
Oh, man, yeah, and we were thinking alike. I mean, I probably was the one who was arguing that, my God, this is gonna be a big project. So I hear you, I hear your concerns. I mean, I would love to say, no, you're wrong. It is a lot of work. The only thing is, we would never get cottonwood recruitment here. Getting plants to grow, I think that was the argument that came back against me, was that getting the plants to grow, at least in this relic floodplain, would be super difficult to reach we'd have to deep water or deep plant, but we wouldn't get the recruitment, cottonwood recruitment that we kind of would like to have, so it recreates
Well,
itself.
Maybe that's telling you though that it's not a good site for cottonwoods. I mean, if you got to go geoengineer to make a certain plant fit, maybe it should be a ponderosa site or something.
Yeah, I definitely hear that point. The concern I have then, well, the concern was brought to me, and I totally see it, and I saw it when I was out there, is that all up and down this reach is the same thing. There's a lot of that. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe we have a solution that we can come up with using this one site. That's where I came up with the swales. Less work, you still allow water into the floodplain. But again, that's a Mike Bosko idea. But I hear you.
And we did talk a little bit about this and, Kat was originally looking at that. There is no design option with the riparian funds.
Yeah,
And then the questions of if you're gonna do any earth moving, this is the time to evaluate. I would recommend that one of the, you ask for a range, if you go the design route like this, you ask for a range of alternatives, including what is the planting only, no earthwork alternative, and how does that compare? And,
Yeah.
you may end up finding that gives you as much gain as anything else if it's a tough site.
Right, makes sense.
And,
It's, you know, just a high bank through this stretch on the most of the right side of the river like this. It's not like real active floodplain. It just feels like you might be trying to engineer it into something it's not. And that gets, you know, that gets difficult. That gets costly and complicated and expensive, and you know, usually tends not to work with ecosystem processes. I mean, you could certainly do something here, but yeah, I mean, if it can't grow cottonwoods, I guess I'm curious why it's a priority in the cottonwood assessment. That doesn't really line up to me. And you're going to run into this issue of the landowner potentially wanting to be protected from erosion, and which is really the opposite of what the river needs. You know, I mean, for a site like this, the best solution is for it to erode over time, really, ecologically.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that. I mean, I do like Alex's idea of, you know, getting the alternatives through a design. Because there could be something we can do. It'd be interesting to see if there's something we can do. But also there could be a lower cost alternative that they can come up with. But I definitely hear you, and like I said, I made that argument as well.
I think a lot depends too on looking at upstream landowners and possible connections across things. When you look throughout, it'd be good to go back to the Cottonwood assessment and say, why did they prioritize it as they did and what potential were they seeing? Because, yeah, it's not a natural high terrace. It's clearly, it has been floodplain.
Yeah.
But that question of what's your feasible chance of reconnecting it, both just working on the property and or long-term with upstream work.
Right, yeah.
Is this a stretch of the Yakima River that could significantly benefit from having a major side channel be the primary goal instead?
Alex, what do you think on that? It's not, we don't have a lot of these side channels out there.
I think this comes back to that question of what kind of side channels you're creating in terms of just a big dug trench that's otherwise unconnected is very different from space that the river can really work and a side channel that has a chance to migrate over time. And down below here, you've got a fair bit of side channel, and we've had some massive big investments in creating possibility for more side channel. In a design process, it totally depends on what kind of side channel and at what kind of cost to say, is this a great addition to that, or is this more expensive and less priority than other opportunities in adjoining beaches?
Well, and most of the thinking that's gone into that in this area has to do with side channels going in the other direction, right? I mean, you can kind of see that heading toward the washed out pits. It's not going in this direction toward the high bank, but going in the direction of low ground.
That's something to add to. Have you looked at the history of the land use? We ran into an issue. It may be more, once you start doing construction or digging into areas, there may be more things in there than cars and tires.
Yeah.
And things like that, and it could cause a heartache. Could be a bigger cleanup than what you think. It's just on the outside. There might be something more underneath.
That's true, and I was kind of thinking about that when we were talking about going and just cleaning up the tires, because even on the drive down there, it goes from pristine houses and pretty lawns to kind of creepy driving
Yeah.
down into there.
Yeah.
There's a lot, much machinery and everything else up there.
People think they clean it up on the surface end, but then when you start digging in there, you find more things
Right.
that people have dug in and put in there.
Yeah, well, I think our focus was more on getting the cars out, the tires, they're right there. I don't think we want to be digging down into that backward canal. Sadly.
Like, is that drainage ditch at the north side, is that like an NDPS monitored outfall? a permit condition attached to it.
Where T2 is here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, if you follow it, it just goes up into the field and then it just flows down. They say it flows year round. The landowners told me that it flows year round. I don't know how much they go down there during the winter time or the late
I was
fall.
thinking maybe you could, if you have, if it's not a permit condition or if you can play around with it, you might be able to, with limited earthwork, turn that into your side channel and just have a, vegetated swale. Where
Oh, I
you
see,
have
yeah.
Riparian plantings and the additional filtering of whatever agricultural runoff is coming out there as well.
Right.
Something to look at if it's permitted outfall.
Yeah.
A useful resource for you guys would be, I think it was 2011. We had a fairly big flood and Scott Nicolai got aerials of this whole area.
That's right.
And I think John Marvin has them. I may have them somewhere, but I'd have to dig. But those would be great to look at to understand this and adjoining sites and how connected they are at different water levels.
If I get my hands on those, can I distribute them?
Yeah.
Cause I know William has them and.
Okay.
Maybe I can get some.
I just think that'd be a great thing to look at together.
Yeah.
I can tell you that as of 1960, the river was over there in that other channel and was not up against this land.
Oh, really?
And by 1980, it had jumped into this channel and was actually further in than it is now, and it's braided back out a little bit since.
I think I noticed that from the aerials. Yeah.
Is the levee they put in on the other side that goes down, that's on the city of Ellensburg property, that kind of blocks that pond off, and then the out channel for that pond is down at the end. You go towards the campground on that side, but it's like actual road levee on that side.
Okay.
It's like pushed it,
Yeah,
pushed the river.
we've been looking.
I-90 first came along after.
Shoved it all over, and that freeway shoved it all over.
A number of us were on that, in that area with WashDOT, as they're working on their I-90 environmental hazards reduction, they're looking at adjoining projects. And actually, part of the discussion of this and the upstream properties came from, okay, where are the properties you'd want to look at as you were looking at opportunities on WashDOT that could move together in tandem? So, yeah, there's definitely room to look at that levee, those ponds, and then the big surface just below, just off there's the old city of Ellensburg dump is the biggest pinch point in the whole river through this section. And that question of, how would you get that? And it is really a narrow point. And that's below this site is where it goes to Genuine High Bank, where it's a big terrace. Yeah, I'm interested to hear you say that it's regraded, because, yeah, it'll be great when we get out there to walk this bank and see what it looks like. And
Yeah. At the upper, down here, it's still, it's elevated. It's right in here where it's mostly a 5-foot bank or difference in elevation. It gets closer to the river surface up here. So it's mainly in this portion right there. I was trying to find a way to show that other than these, if I go back. Doesn't show very well either, it still shows a drop. When you're standing out there, it seems a little shallow. LiDAR doesn't lag it.
This is the 1916 map of all the channels that went through there.
yeah,
in Business County.
that's the,
See, this is the Yakima River right here, that's 329, so there was several channels.
Any final comments? All right.
Well, thank you
Thank
guys,
you
I
much.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And you're a fine presenter.
Am I?
You sold yourself out.
It only took me